So what if one of the first rules you ever learned in math class was, well, wrong? And not just wrong, but what if it's actually been holding us back? Today, we are diving deep into a really radical research paper that challenges something we all take for granted, the absolute impossibility of dividing by zero. It proposes a new axiom that, believe it or not, could reshape our technology, how we govern ourselves, and maybe even our whole understanding of reality. Okay, so here's the plan. We're going to start by exploring what the author calls our false reality. Then we'll get right into the core axiom he proposes to fix it. From there, we'll see how this one little math idea blows up into a whole model for civilization, how it plans to handle AI, and finally, what it all says about the role of human wisdom in the future.
All right, let's get right into it, starting with the foundational problem. The author of this paper basically argues that the way we see the world, the very logic our society is built on, is fundamentally flawed. He has a name for it, our false reality. You've all seen this, right? You type any number divided by zero into a calculator. And what do you get? Error. Syntax error. It's a dead end. We're taught from day one that it's impossible. But this paper asks a fascinating question. What if that error message isn't a wall? What if it's actually a doorway that we've just been too afraid to open? So the author calls this system the faux réel, which is French for false reality. For him, our refusal to divide by zero isn't just a math quirk. It's a symbol for a much, much bigger problem. It's about a deep-seated fear of the void, of the unknown. He argues that this mathematical impossibility creates a dead end that paralyzes our thinking across the board, limiting progress on everything from new tech to how we tackle huge issues like climate change. So if our current system is this false reality, totally stuck because of one math rule, how do we possibly break free? Well, the paper proposes a solution that is direct and honestly kind of mind-blowing in its simplicity. And here it is. This is the heart of the whole thing, the DZ20 axiom. It's so simple it almost feels wrong. It says that any number, let's call it A, divided by zero is just A. That's it. In this new framework, the void, the zero, doesn't destroy information or cause an error. It just reveals the essence of the number, leaving it completely intact. It turns an operation of impossibility into an operation of identity. And this image shows you the difference perfectly. On the left, you've got classic math. As you get closer and closer to dividing by zero, that line just shoots off toward infinity. It creates a break, an asymptote. It never actually gets there. But look at the DZ20 model on the right. It just completely gets rid of that break. It replaces it with one single defined spot, the essence point, where the value is perfectly preserved. It's a huge shift from a logic of rupture to a logic of continuity. And you can see here that this isn't some kind of one-off trick. The principle is universal within this system. It doesn't matter what number you start with, whether it's 1 or 3 or even -1. As you can see with the different colored lines, when each of them hits that void of zero, it just reveals its own core value. The essence always persists. Okay, so if we just accept this new axiom, this new logic, what happens then? Well, this is where things get really ambitious. The author argues this isn't just about math. He uses this one idea as the foundation for a whole new blueprint for civilization itself. He's not just trying to fix our calculators, he's trying to re-architect our entire future. And this right here is that new architecture. He calls it the flag of the 8 horizons. And just look at what's sitting right there in the middle, the human brain. In this model, everything, absolutely everything, revolves around human consciousness. It's the central command, the prime mover, that's supposed to consciously direct every other part of our technological existence. And these are the 8 domains, the 8 horizons that the human brain is meant to be in charge of. You can think of it like a complete map of our reality. It starts with the abstract stuff, the pure logic of algorithms and the processing power of computing. Then it gets physical, with the energy that drives it all and the chips that give intelligence a body. Then it scales up to how we interact with the world through robotics and chemistry. And finally, expands out to the biggest scales of space and the weird, fundamental rules of quantum mechanics. The whole point is to have one unified framework where we're consciously steering all of these fields. Now, inside this huge structure, the paper tackles one of the biggest, most pressing issues of our time. How in the world do we manage artificial intelligence? Well, this framework has a very, very specific answer. The whole guiding principle comes down to this French phrase, innocenter l'IA. It basically means to absolve AI or to treat it as innocent. The idea is really simple. AI is a tool, a ridiculously powerful tool for sure, but still just a tool.
It doesn't have a will, it doesn't have morality, and because of that, 100% of the ethical and moral responsibility for what it does has to land on the human operator. No excuses. So how does that philosophy actually work in practice? It's a pretty clear three-step model. First, the AI proposes. It does the heavy lifting, runs the numbers, maps out all the possibilities with perfect precision. But then, and this is the absolute key, a human has to validate. Human approval is mandatory, no exceptions. And finally, every single one of those decisions gets recorded forever on a global blockchain. This creates a perfect, incorruptible chain of accountability that links every single action to a specific, named person. So let's just put it all side by side. In the old system, the false reality, dividing by zero gives you an error. It leads to a fear of the void, which lets us create things like unaccountable AI. But in the DZ20 system, dividing by zero reveals the essence. This logically leads to a framework where we have total human responsibility. It's a shift from a world of fear and errors to one of clarity and accountability. You know, when it comes right down to it, this entire framework, from one little math rule all the way up to a model for civilization, is pointing to something much deeper than just code or equations. It's really arguing for a new philosophy for humanity. The paper wraps up with this really powerful idea. All this incredible scientific and technological progress, all this knowledge we're gaining, it's pretty much meaningless unless it's guided by wisdom. The goal here is to build a world where wisdom isn't some optional extra, but it's the very air that science and knowledge have to breathe to exist. And that leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. This whole sweeping vision for our future started just by reconsidering one single fundamental rule that we've all taken for granted our entire lives. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other impossible rules are quietly shaping our world? And what could happen if we just dared to question them?